Pride and poise. Commitment to excellence. Just win, baby. The Raider mystique was the vision of one man, Al Davis. But before 1976, it was largely unrealized. Oakland never won when it mattered most.
The Baltimore Colts are the AFC champions, and it's on to the Super Bowl. That's the end of the American Football Conference Championship game. The Dolphins dominated all the way.
Between 1968 and 1975, the Raiders played in 6 AFC championship games and lost all 6, each time to the eventual Super Bowl champion.
When you get as close as we had gotten, and then not to be able to get it done, and then to get so close, the frustration just continued to mount. Tough guys are tough guys on the field, but football players are no different than anybody else. You really feel bad when you lose. Maybe guys have too much pride or have an image of being too tough to cry outwardly, but I've seen guys that are really hurt by not winning, and I've been one of them. We've been bridesmaids a lot of times.
Hang on to your hats. It's down to one big play. 4th down and 10 yards to go.
While the Raiders were continually jilted at the championship altar, the Pittsburgh Steelers spent much of the 70s married to the Lombardi Trophy.
And there's a collision. It's put up in the air. The ball is pulled in by Franco Harris.
Pittsburgh's victories were usually controversial, but that still spelled trouble for head coach John Madden. Since his hiring in 1969, Madden had won more games than any NFL coach, but had failed to take his team to a Super Bowl.
You did hear Madden couldn't win the big one, but I used to say, man, before the game, tell me when there's a little one. We won a lot of big games, a lot of regular season games, a lot of big games to get to playoffs, and a lot of playoff games.
When the Raiders ended Miami's 2-year reign as world champions in the Sea of Hands game, they did it for their coach.
We beat the Dolphins. I went right to the sideline and gave John that ball because he deserved it. Us as players loved him, and you had to watch John operate. On the sideline, he was a maniac.
Hey, throw the damn flag!
Which was beautiful.
Hey, you jerk! You big jerk! You don't call. You ever call one on them?
But during the week, the X's and O's, everything had to be perfect. He prepared us so well. And when we lost, it wasn't John Madden's fault. I guarantee you.
I don't believe in that thing that a team can't win the big one. I've been in playoff games. We've been in championship games. Of course, we haven't won it, but we really feel that that's ahead. I was never frustrated because I knew we were good. I knew we were close. And we never lost to a bad team. We lost to some of the greatest teams in the history of the NFL. The worst thing you could do is get into the playoffs, lose a championship game, and panic. Because all we did was maybe need a first down here, a call here, and we would have been there. The guys that had to be frustrated were the guys that won 2 games.
The 1975 season ended with another crushing defeat.
It's tough. It's cold.
Playing on the frozen turf of Three Rivers Stadium, the Raiders were put on ice in the AFC Championship.
That was a very good football team. And when we lost to the Steelers in 75, I just couldn't believe it. Now I started actually getting, a little spooked.
There was a lot of hard hitting by both sides. I think it was a very emotional game. There was a hell of a lot of meaning to this game. As you know, the winner goes to the Super Bowl and the loser goes home.
Losing was dulling the luster of the silver and black. The Raiders needed to win it all in 1976, or history would remember them as a team that couldn't win the big one.
By game day, not even world events could shake the Raiders' focus.
We drove to the Superdome, and there was a big yellow ribbon around the Superdome. I'm like, what the heck is that on there for? They said, well, the hostages are free. I'm like, hostages? Oh, that's right. There were some hostages. I was so focused on what was going on. I didn't have a clue what was going on in the world. Some would listen to that and say, well, that's great concentration, and others would listen to that and say, the kid needs a little perspective.
But we were there to play one more football game. And to go to that game and not to be prepared to play would have just been awful for what we had already accomplished. It wouldn't have meant anything.
Super Sunday, what a day. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. It's like a dream come true. It's unbelievable. Yes, and we're going to win. We are going to win, no question.
It was a great feeling. I was so proud to run out there. It was kind of like a storybook finish all coming to a head.
In some ways, the Super Bowl was anticlimactic because the best team in football, we thought, were the San Diego Chargers.
We knew the Eagles had beat us. We knew we could beat them. We knew that if they came in the way that they came into that game we played them in the season, we could beat them.
You know, I was ready once I stepped on that field. I still had something to prove to myself and to whoever else.
Plunkett on a straight drop back. Here comes the rush. Steps up. Can't find anybody yet. Takes off running to the left. Rolls on the move. And it's caught by King at the 40. Takes over the 50. He'll go all the way. Nobody knows. To the 20. To the 10. To the 12. Touchdown Raiders.
Plunkett's eating us alive.
In just 3 months, Jim Plunkett had gone from Heisman bust to super savior. 3 touchdown passes capped one of the greatest personal comebacks in NFL history.
Jim Plunkett had a masterful game. Rod Martin had a game for the ages. He was everywhere. He was everywhere. He had 3 interceptions. He wasn't Bobby Chandler, but with a little bit of stickum, he could hang on to the thing. That was probably compliments of the judge. He played as good a Super Bowl as any defender has ever played. Did not get the MVP. Jim Plunkett got the MVP. Jim deserved it, but Rod deserved it just as much.
I felt really, really good for Jim because he had paid his dues, just like everyone else. But it meant a lot to him to be the guy that led us through that Super Bowl.
It's a great feeling. Finally accomplished something that everybody who ever gets in the NFL wants to do.
The only suspense that remained was whether the tension between Rozelle and Davis would affect the presentation of the Vince Lombardi Trophy.
Never will forget him telling us, we beat these guys, we go in that locker room, you be gentlemen, you show respect, and that's the way we will approach this.
I think it's a great credit to you for putting this team together. You've earned it. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, Commissioner. This was our finest hour. This was the finest hour in the history of the Oakland Raiders. The Tom Flores, the coaches, and the great athletes, you were magnificent out there today. You really were.
The toughest part of any race is the last leg. And for some of the Raiders' star players, just getting to the Super Bowl proved to be more difficult than playing in it.
We took a cab to the Super Bowl, got stuck in traffic.
Otis McKinney and I, we didn't take the bus like most of the players do. We had a rental car.
We're a quarter mile at least from the stadium. Lyle starts yelling at the cab driver, "Get over, go up on the curb, damn it, blah, 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 blah."
And we pull up and we said, "Where do the players park?" And the lady said, "What? You guys, I don't care if you play or not, you guys need a parking pass."
And the cab driver, I don't know where he was from, and bless his heart, he's just frightened to death. Here's this guy in the front seat, looks like an armadillo with veins popping out of his neck.
And we said, "Excuse me, lady, we're playing in the game. We don't need a parking pass. You got to let us in." She says, "I'm sorry, you need a parking pass to get in."
Lyle gets out of the cab. He's walking. So now we got to get out of the cab because we go together.
And we just simultaneously looked at each other, and I guess we had the same thought. And we both grabbed our bags, and we took off running towards the locker room in that car. We left the car running right there, and to this day, we don't know what happened to her.
Revenge against the defending champion Redskins came easily. Seconds before halftime, Coach Charlie Sumner put Jack Squirick in and told him to shadow Joe Washington, who had burned the Raiders in Week 5 on a screen pass.
Looks off to the left, and he fires it off there. Intercepted! Jack Squirick! Touchdown Raiders! I don't believe it!
And they look like they knew it was coming. Man ran right for it. I guarantee they look like they knew that play was coming.
Let's keep dominating this team. Let's keep dominating.
In 1983, the Redskins set an NFL record for points in a season. In the Super Bowl, the Raiders shut them down and beat them up, sacking Joe Theismann 6 times and holding the Redskins to just 9 points.
I remember after the game, Joe Theismann saying, they handed us our asses on the tray, and the tray was bent. That was as much physical domination as I had seen defensively, and I got to witness it firsthand.
Todd Christensen also was an eyewitness to the brilliance of Marcus Allen. And late in the third quarter, he saw a play that he will never forget.
When I'm 95 and I'm hooked up to the wires on ESPN or whatever the station will be back then, channel 1036 will show that replay, and I know that I'll be like this in my hospital bed because I never get tired of seeing that play.
That play was 17 Bob Trey-O.
Even now, whenever I see that highlight, I get tingles.
Marcus appeared to be going nowhere, much like Al Davis when he attempted to move his franchise to Los Angeles. But in the end, no one could prevent football's evil empire, or Marcus, from reaching their desired destinations.
Marcus can't run. Isn't that what they said when he came out? For Marcus, it was the confirmation of his greatness.
Coach, Tom Flores.
Yes, Mr. President.
I have already had a call from Moscow. They think that Marcus Allen is a new secret weapon, and they insist that we dismantle him.
That was a beautiful run, and it turned out to be a beautiful career. And yes, I did reverse field it sometimes, and yet I did, avoid some tacklers, but in the end, I ended up where I wanted to end up.
The one thing that stands out to me is that after Marcus's 74-yard run, when you see everybody run out and embrace him, it's at that point in time when I think that the team realized that we were going to be world champions. The sheer delight, almost to a degree of frivolity, that's a picture that I think will linger for quite a while.
For players, the bond that's created is very hard to describe. There's some of these guys that I'm sure I'll run into 20 years later, but we will have a common bond that most people just will not understand. And it's a great sense of pride, a great sense of achievement. It is one of the more incredible feelings.
It was a feeling Lyle Alzado finally experienced after 13 NFL seasons with 3 teams.
Here I was at the beginning of my career, and here was a guy at the end of his career. I don't think I really fully understood at the time what he was going through and what it meant to him. Maybe seeing a side of Lyle that I had never seen, and I had seen the rainbow of emotions that came from him. But he was, for one of the few points in his life, I think he was at peace. When you're 23, I don't think you realize how great the moment really is and how rare it is. And there's nothing I wouldn't give short of my family, my children and my wife, to be back there trying to do it again.
I realized that this is the dream of millions, and yet I was living it out. My father had instructed me many years ago that there was only one sin, and that was the sin of ingratitude. And I didn't want to be one of those people that was ungrateful. I wanted to make sure that I thanked my Maker for the opportunity that I had to be in this game, that the son of a University of Oregon professor and a homemaker probably had no business being on the stage.